everyone. Welcome to How to Deliver a High-Value Cash Flow Management Service. My name is Jeff Bourgeois, and I'm going to walk you through how I've helped many accountants help their clients by having conversations about cash flow. Now, this isn't one of those sit back and relax webinars. This is a practical how-to. So we're going to give you step-by-step what you need to do. And today you're going to learn, I think the number one skill is how to speak to your clients about cash flow. It is critical. They need help now more than ever. I'll show you how to create a high-value cash flow management service, and we'll focus on creating basic budgets for existing clients. And then once we get through the meat of the cash flow, how to offer it, I'm going to show you how to build a key strategic partner plan. And the idea is, let's have a network that brings you clients. And I guarantee if you talk about cash flow, you will bring in clients through a network. So we'll talk about how to build that. So let's jump in. Now you will have access to all of these documents. The first document is the Cash Flow Management Service Blueprint. And this has two parts. The first is the collateral for actually offering the service. And then the second is a blueprint for you on how to create and start promoting your cash flow service. So you'll see there's a few documents linked into this document. And basically, we'll start with the welcome letter, and I'll walk you through the 10 steps. So you can see this is a 10-step program. So the first is the welcome letter. So this is where you want to start. And you want to create something like this. So we'll just let that load up here. And this is a letter that I've written to the accountants in the world. And this is just an overview of where to start. So just go through, read the welcome letter. I'm not going to spend any time on it because it's meant to give you some guidance. The other thing I've created for your benefit is there's a workbook on how to do this in detail. So you don't need to take a lot of notes in the next hour or so we're going to spend together. But as you can see, I've put together everything I think that you need in order to deliver cash flow. So there's an action plan, there's a blueprint, lots of room for notes, a bit of a diagnostic, and some recommended reading. The video list, you can ignore that because I'm replacing that with this video. All right. Now, the first thing, we have a 5-part email sequence, and you can do one of two things with this. One, you can send it out to all of your existing clients. And if you do, you have to customize it a little, which we'll talk through here. But basically, the intent of this is most accounting firms haven't talked to their clients about cash flow. It's a brand new conversation, so it might feel a little strange or foreign to just jump in and say, hey, let's talk about cash flow. So first use, you can send this out as an email series. And basically, to customize it, the first one is about you. So you want to edit this and put your firm name in. And all of these resources, the templates and stuff, you can download within the course portal. So the first thing is we want to remind them, here's what we traditionally have done for you. And edit this so that it feels like your language. You don't want to just use my language, but edit it so it sounds like it comes from you. And basically, the gist of it is you're letting them know we're going to send out a 5-part email series. And the 5 parts are obviously this introduction. And then second part is why cash flow management is critical. We want to share that for the small business clients. Then we're going to share common cash flow management mistakes because we want to help people avoid those mistakes. And then the 4th email, we're going to share best practices for managing cash flow. And then the fifth and final one is some myths around cash flow management. And so try to keep this as intact as possible, but obviously, like I said, edit it so it sounds like you. And you can use your favorite autoresponder. If you don't have some way of sending out an email to all of your clients at once, I recommend you have one. The easiest, cheapest, fastest to use is MailChimp. So if you don't have one, MailChimp is free up to 2,000 emails a month. I think it is something like that. So you want to get a good service that makes it really easy to send out good quality emails. So set up email one is your firm introduction, as I said. And then I've got the scripts for all 5 emails. You just need to queue them up and set them up to go out. And basically the call to action is you want your clients to call you and talk to you about cash flow. Now, the biggest thing I would say in terms of timing, you don't want to bombard people, but I would normally send these out once a week. So if you send email number 1 on a Monday, send every other email, set it up so they go out on a Monday as well. So you want a cadence, you want some consistency. And the idea is to show your clients that you're now open to having conversations about cash flow. So it's a 5-part email sequence. Customize it to your language. And the way I recommend it is send it to your best clients first over 5 consecutive weeks. And then once you've gotten some feedback from your best clients, give them first chance at it. And I would even put something in saying, we're doing this just for our best clients now. And maybe you're not ready to do it today, to do cash flow today, but send out the email today and say, hey, we're looking to launch this May 1st or whatever, but give them a heads up that cash flow is important and you want to have that conversation. Now, we've got some other tools, but for our purposes today, we're going to cover just this really simple cash flow diagnostic. And basically, this is meant to be a conversation starter, nothing else. So you can customize this. You can take my logo off. But basically, this is a conversation starter. So it's meant to be discussed between you and a client. Some accountants make the mistake. They'll mail this out to everybody they know and say, hey, please complete this and send it back. The problem is that becomes another piece of paperwork that some busy entrepreneur has to process. Whereas when you talk to them, if you could just arrange, say, hey, can we have a 15-minute phone call? And basically you want to walk through and ask them these questions. You might actually know the answers to a lot of these yourself, but have the conversation and say, dear client, I just want to have a chat with you. We're really keen to help our clients. We want to understand their cash flow needs. We're doing a little survey. Would you mind taking 15 minutes to chat with me about cash flow? And I promise you, there's nothing more important in your client's mind than how do I pay the bills? How do I ensure my cash flow is coming in as quickly as I need it to, going out as slowly as possible, and quite frankly, just optimized for the business. And this is not an in-depth complete survey. There's exactly 11 questions. And basically what we're doing is the ones all represent lower risk, twos represent medium risk, threes represent high risk. So you're just circling them. You're going to give them a score. And basically anything that they list as a 3, that's something you want to triage and make it the first problem you solve. So if they're getting, for example, the question is, how do your customers pay you? And the answer to 3 is paid on account over 60 days. How could you help them increase their speed of collection? So reduce total days in receivables. So this is just meant to be a tool. And by the way, if all of the answers come back as a 1 and it's low risk, I would ask them, is there anything about the cash flow in your business you'd like to work on? I've had some accountants, their clients come back, circled all ones. They say, obviously, there's nothing I can do to help them. But the client actually wanted to talk about cash flow. So don't negate it and say, well, you got all ones, you're good. Say, how could we help you improve? And a fair assessment is you've scored a low risk on our little assessment. Which areas would you like to go deeper on? So that's the high level. We want to understand them. And I can't stress enough, it's a conversation starter. So don't send this out to your clients. Ask them the questions. So invite them on a call. Zoom is better because you can do face-to-face like this, but video conference is my favorite if you can't meet in person. This is you getting to know them and asking some questions. So make it easy. I wouldn't ask them to come into the office just to do that. But also, if you're meeting with clients face-to-face, pull that out and go through it and make sure you have that conversation with them. If nothing else, you'll build a better relationship because you've had a conversation about them. Now, the next piece of this is how to set up a cash flow service and what that pricing might look like. So we have this cash flow scope and pricing template. This is just my example. You can customize it as you see fit. For the record, people don't care about the features. They care about the outcome. I'm sharing the features here just so that you know what kind of things to add and what kind of things are important. So this is my example. You can take it as is, or you can customize it. But basically, I've created 3 tiers of pricing. And my logic is very simple. 10 to 15% of the world is truly price sensitive. So no matter what you put in front of them, they want the cheapest price. 5 to 10% of the world is not price sensitive. They want the premium. So you want to have a nice premium, and again, not very creative. I just called it basic, intermediate, advanced. For the 5 to 10% of the population that'll pay top dollar no matter what, they want a premium service. You want that there for them. And then the rest of the population, which depending on how you do the math is somewhere around 75, 85%, they want safety. So no matter what option you put in front of them, they'll pick the middle one. So I liken these to good, better, and best. And the advanced or your best package also serves to make the other two look very reasonable. So just again, at most 5 to 10% of your population, your clients should ask about advanced. If I had one accountant who 100% of the people she talked to took the advanced, her advanced price was clearly too low. So you want advanced to be a little bit out of reach. It should be something that somebody's very serious about. And the relative pricing, not the actual pricing, but the relative, basically basic is I wanted something that was really easy and it works out to $100 a month. It's really simple. And for that, you're getting a really simple service. The intermediate, I wanted it to be about 4 times the basic price. So this is our best value. We want everybody to want this price. So it's giving them value first and then setting a fair and reasonable price. And then the advanced, I put it to 3 times intermediate. Your price can vary, but it should be at least 3 times your middle package. And basically you want this to be, a happy dance number. You sign somebody at this level, you'll shut the office down and celebrate for, at least a minute. But this should be a crazy number and you'll think, oh, nobody will pay this. But 5 to 10% will. So you want something that's worthwhile. And the goal for the advanced is not how cheap can I make this? It's how much value can I add? What else can I do? How could I wow them? So some of the criteria I've included, the number one is how often will you meet? So with the basic cash flow, and by the way, the hours that I anticipate you spending per client at each level, the basic is 2 hours a year, intermediate's about 8 hours, and advanced is at least 24 hours. So you're looking at about 2 hours a month. But the idea is if you can get a high fee, you want to throw in as much value as possible. So if you need more time, obviously you're going to charge a higher fee. And basically, my goal for cash flow is you want to keep the monthly investment reasonable for the client, but you want to keep your hourly rate. This should be your highest and best use of time. And we want it high enough so that you will willingly drop other things, pay people to do other things, so you can focus on having cash flow conversations. And me personally, I love them. I find them a lot of fun. So it's always good to have those conversations. It's a good way to build loyalty with your clients. So meeting frequency is the first thing. Next is what type of budget you're going to prepare. And this is important. The basic package, you're looking at something like a 12-month static. So you're going to have a budget for the next 12 months. And by the way, we'll talk about how to do that in a later segment today. The next is maybe a quarterly static. So every 90 days, you've got a static budget that you've worked on together. So you're going to meet and decide. And then the advanced, I like the quarterly rolling concept. And basically, you'll have a 14-week budget. And as a current week drops off at the beginning, you'll add another week at the end. So you always have 90 days of planning ahead of you. It's the most valuable, most useful form of budgeting. Another thing you can consider is financial ratios. So maybe you're analyzing liquidity, you're helping them understand net profit, profit margin, whatever it is, but find the ratios that make the most sense to them and give them some answers to it. Now, part of budgeting, people want what if. So what if I bought this? What if I changed my price? You want to give some what if scenarios. And with a basic budget, you're not doing any of that because that's well beyond the scope. And that's the important thing. You set the scope, therefore you set the rules. This is how you keep your fee high. And if something comes up and you identify it as, oh, we can help you with that, for the basic, that becomes an add-on service with an extra fee agreed in advance. You want to price it the top advanced package so that everything's included if possible. So just a suggestion, no what ifs for basic, one what if scenario in intermediate, and maybe it's 3 what ifs in advanced. Obviously, if you can charge more, maybe it's 5 what ifs. Now, management reporting, I think, is critical. And by the way, you really can't do a budget unless you've got good books and records. So for the basic, we're just looking at one 12-month static. So there's not a lot of management reporting needed. And then you can get more complex. So maybe with the intermediate level, you share quarterly management reports, balance sheet, income statements, or profit and loss, whatever you prefer. We talk about cash flow. There's just basic things. With the advanced package, maybe it's monthly, and maybe we're looking at payables, receivables, historical trends, things like that, budget to actual. In terms of who it's a fit for, if you have a very simple business, that would be a basic package. If you have a little bit more complex, then you're going to go with the intermediate. And if you have a really complex, you're going to recommend the advanced. And one of the key things here is when you're talking to your client, you're going to focus on what they need. So how do I add value to you? How do I help you? And your job is to help them pick which of these 3 pricing packages fit their business. Now, if they're a startup and cash is tight, you may want to sell them advanced, but that's going to jeopardize your relationship. So you're probably going to want to start them at basic, show them value, help them grow their business, and then you'll work up to earning the right to ask them for advanced. Now, profitability by product line, that's a little bit of an extreme and advanced process. I would only do that for your advanced clients. And time doesn't add any value, but having that strategy is really, really important. So with the basic, we're setting the terms. They get one 60-minute meeting. That's it. If they need more help, that's a new project, new fees. With the intermediate, I recommend 90 minutes once a quarter. And then with the advanced, I think you want to include 1 hour a month just as a meeting. So as needed is sort of a rough term, but again, your pricing is going to determine how much access you want to give. And then with the two top tier packages, we're going to include an annual strategy review where you're going to look at their numbers, you're going to sit down with the decision makers, and you're going to have a plan for the next year. With the budgeting process, we want to look at key performance indicators, and we can help our clients get really clear by showing them which KPIs are most relevant. And, for example, with a basic one, I might just talk about profitability. What does their profit margin look like? But obviously, as they get more complex, we want to create more KPIs. Now, having a KPI and not monitoring it is not very helpful. So with our higher packages, we're going to help them monitor those KPIs either quarterly or monthly. Now, one thing people don't realize is that turnaround time or support time or response time, that's very important. So for your top clients, you want to give them a narrow window and you say, we're going to prioritize you. We will give you guaranteed email support within 6 hours. For your other levels, you're going to give them a lesser, but you're still going to give them good service. And likewise, maybe you're going to offer telephone support. Giving direct access, for example, maybe your top clients get your cell phone number. Your basic clients get, a dedicated line where they can talk to one of your team. You want to make it relative to the value, the price they're paying. So those who pay the most should get the best access. And again, we talked about investment. So that is an example of cash flow, scope, and pricing. And we'll talk about the 12-month static budget in a later segment. Now, the next piece I want to talk about is the client workbook. And basically, I didn't want you to have the conversation over and over and over because that's not scalable. So we've created a client workbook. And again, this is something you can customize for your firm. Just take out my logo, but you put your details in here. And you need to edit a couple of things, but go through, make sure this sounds like you, feels like your language, that sort of thing. So obviously under the welcome, you're going to put your details here. You're not going to want to promote my business, but yours. And you're going to change things. So we want to get people to do the cash flow diagnostic if they haven't already. Again, I prefer you do it face-to-face or via video conference. But there's a workbook here, and you can customize this. So for the blueprint, you want to customize this. This is my blueprint for accountants. Obviously, you're going to change it based on your diagnostic, what the client needs. You're going to show the client how to create an action plan. And then the rest of the content is meant to teach the client how to think about cash flow, how to talk about cash flow. You might want to go through and edit some of these documents just to make sure it sounds like you. You'll recognize this content. It comes from the email sequence, but it's nice just to give it to them in a printed printed format, so they've got it. And it is a workbook, so they're going to have to work their way through it. And so we've got some ideas on how to speed up cash coming in, how to slow down cash going out, how to look at their monthly cash flow. So this is just something I created. It's a 38-page workbook, nothing too drastic, but the idea is to put it in their hands so that they can talk to you about cash flow and they can do a little bit of homework. You can give this to all levels of clients. And basically the idea would be, print it out, get it bound, make it look nice, spend a little money on it. I think when I printed it last, all told, nicely bound, put it together in a nice little package, it cost me about $10 a booklet. But again, if you share it with all of your clients, it's going to bind them to you. It's going to build that loyalty. And you never know where you're going to get your next cash flow client from. So this is, again, the 10 steps are getting you ready. So I'm going to share what you're ready for before we wrap up. And as I said, I'll also talk about strategic partners. Now, this is a little old school, but I really truly believe we want to have some sort of collateral that we can give to strategic partners, people who want to promote it. And this is an example I did for one of my companies that I worked with. So here's where you want to lay out your packages. And by the way, come up with a better term than basic, intermediate, advanced, because that's just simple for explanation. But I typically use, bronze, silver, gold, or good, better, best, whatever it is. But make it descriptive of what the package is. So maybe it's startup, maybe it's growth mode, maybe it's whatever. I used compliance, controller, concierge. You can use whatever words make sense to you. And you want to ask questions. So the format is really simple. This is the inside of the brochure. So the outside of the brochure, have a nice little picture that represents your business, have some contact details, and a little overview of what you do. This is the back of the brochure. Here's some add-on services that maybe they don't know about. Here's how else we can help you. I put the notes page, and a lot of people say, oh, that's a waste of paper. Well, the reality is studies have shown if people write on something, they will keep it far longer than if it's a glossy brochure. So we want them to write on it, even if it's just their grocery list, but that way they'll keep it on their desk, and will survive the purges as they throw other stuff out. Now inside, we want to ask some questions, and these questions help them get clear, is this for me? So you can see I have the questions, and then it says, if you answered yes, this might be for you. And then here's what we're going to do for you. So again, don't just list features, list outcomes. We're going to help you manage your cash flow to do this. So this is a brochure, and I love the brochures because nobody's doing it anymore. You can build a relationship with a local printer. You can get these done really cheaply. I've used Vistaprint in the past, which gets it really cheaply, but it's really easy to design. You can get this done, but spend a little money on this because this will be your primary calling card, and it'll get you way more business than just a regular business card. And the thing about the brochures is you don't want to be cheap with them. You want to make them nice, but give 2 or 3 to every client and say, hey, if you know anybody else in business, whether it's vendors or clients that could use our help, please feel free to share it. So you want this to be something they'll share. Okay. Now I mentioned earlier with the 5-part email sequence, I also have turned it into a presentation. So the slide deck is here, and basically you want to customize the about us. So introduce the presenter, the firm, talk about the services you offer. And the idea is to walk your clients through and make this an interactive session. This isn't me talking all the time, but you want to give them some guidance. So it's nothing earth shattering, really, truly, but you're helping them. And so this is the slide deck, and I've got the notes here, so you don't have to go anywhere else, but you can just read it. So typically I would have a lunch and learn session and invite your best clients in, or you can do it via Zoom. Actually, with COVID restrictions, let's keep it simple. And basically the idea is you're going to walk them through the agenda, talk about some things they should be asking themselves, because the reality is, and for the record, accountants will always default and say, yeah, I know this is obvious. Well, the key is your clients don't, and they want to hear from you what to do. So this is about a dialogue. So you're going to ask them questions. And the secret to growing your firm is you want to do this as a VIP event for your favorite clients first, get their feedback, get their questions, and then you can tweak and improve it for the rest of your clients. But with your best clients and subsequent clients as well, ask them to invite a friend. So when you invite them to your little presentation on cash flow, say if there's anybody else that you think would benefit, feel free to invite them and bring them along. Invite a friend is the fastest, easiest way to grow a practice. And if they don't know who to invite, you could say, this is for business owners, so invite any other business owners you know. Or my favorite is invite your other trusted advisors. So maybe they have a banker or a lawyer or an insurance agent. Say, why don't you bring your other advisors along so we can have a dialogue? And more on that later in the strategic partner section. So customize this. And the biggest thing is at the end, say the next step is let's have a conversation about cash flow. Come schedule a 15-minute, 30-minute with us. And you put your details. So what exactly do you want them to do? Now, you don't want them to just think about it and walk away. You want to say to them specifically, after watching this presentation, if you think you need help, we're here for you. Reach out, and then we can talk about next steps and create a customized program just for you based on those 3 levels. Okay, so that's almost all the tools. Now, I have a separate script just for the presentation. If you're paying attention, this is very repetitive. This is verbatim the 5-part email sequence. I just made it more of a script. You can also send it out as a little booklet or something if you like. It is also the content for the client workbook. So I'm multi-purposing it, but that is basically how we promote a cash flow service. Now, for the basic, I can't cover everything in one session, but for today, we're going to talk about the basic cash flow. And this is really, really simple. Don't complicate it. You'll notice the total time I've committed to this is 2 hours, and 1 hour of that is the client meeting. So our prep time is we're going to pull a report on the profit and loss for the last 12 months. So again, assumption there, books and records are current. You're going to pull a report, and we want income and expenses by month for the last 12 months at least. If you can go back 24 months, that's even better. And so basically, your basic budget, this is really, really simple. You're going to take last year's P&L, the last 12 months. You're going to cross off profit and loss. You're going to put budget, and you're going to change the dates to the next 12 months. And basically, this is not some gimmick, some trick, but the reality is most business owners don't have a budget. So if we give them a basic budget, which is last year's numbers, that's a starting point, and that's the value, your deliverable for your basic cash flow. The deliverable is the conversation, not necessarily a spreadsheet. So what you want to do is with that little advice in hand, you've got the 12-month P&L that is now your featured budget, the first question you want to ask is, was last year a good year, bad year, neutral? And would you like this year to be better or about the same? So we're setting the framework, and then we're going to focus a lot on the seasonality of their cash flow. So was it a good year? What are the good months? What are the bad months? And basically the conversation is about what can we do today to improve those bad months, to smooth out the gaps and the weaknesses. And basically, you're probably going to spend at least 2/3 of your hour talking about income, because we want them to be really clear on what drives their income. There's always an activity that if you do the activity, the results follow. What activities do they need to do to improve their cash flow? Is it product demos? Is it trade shows? And plan ahead. How could they plan their activities so that it smooths it out? The other question I always ask is, are there other people that could buy this? Are there ways you could sell in bulk rather than one-to-one? So ask them a lot of questions. That is your real deliverable, is getting them really clear on where their income comes from. And then once you've done that, the next step is to look at their major expense categories and find ways to either reduce them. Oh, and by the way, with cash, the revenue side, you want to find ways to speed up the cash coming in. On the expense side, could you find ways to help them reduce their major expenditures? And there are great cost reduction companies out there. Schooley Mitchell's an example. They'll help you negotiate with key vendors to reduce costs. You don't need to do all of the work. You can bring in outside experts. So go through line by line on the income statement and ask questions. If revenue goes up, what else will go up and what proportions? And basically get them clear. If revenue goes up 10%, obviously their costs are going to go up. So, if they add 100,000 in new revenue, what of that do they get to keep after all their expenses, taxes, etc.? So you're having a conversation and you're equipping them to go and do the budget process themselves. So that's a basic cash flow, and literally that should be something you can prepare in under an hour. And then you have the conversation with a client, and obviously there might be some follow-up, but having a basic budget is better than none at all. So teach them that basic, and then earn the right to talk to them about your top tier packages. But for now, start to listen to them, figure out what you need to do. Again, if you want to offer an intermediate or advanced, you can learn that separately. We're not going to cover that in today's. Today, we're just focusing on mainly the basic. And that's the collateral to get you prepared. So now here is the blueprint. So step one, you want to read the accountant workbook, get familiar with the process. Step two, you want to customize the email templates. And step three, you want to set your pricing. Step four, you're customizing cash flow, the diagnostic. Really, it's easy. You put your logo in. And then step five, you want to customize the client workbook. Again, that's really easy. Just make sure it sounds like your language. And then step six, customize the presentation and script for your needs. And like I said, pick your best clients. So step seven is your pilot program, and pick your 8 to 10 best clients and just start. Start with the basic, ask for feedback. How can we improve? And these should be your best clients. So you should be able to say to them, we're launching something new. We're going to give you, our best service or something. We want it to be a trial. We want it to be a benefit to you. And we're looking for feedback on how we can improve it. And then once you've got that feedback and you've got the confidence to deliver, step 8 is to scale it by inviting your entire client base. Now, as a bonus, I believe that once you get comfortable with this, you will want to figure out a key strategic partner plan. And the reality is, once you've exhausted your existing client base, because at some point everybody who's going to buy it will have bought it, this is meant to be the highest and best use of your time. So I believe you're going to want to get it out there as broadly as possible. So this leads me to my final point for today, the key strategic partner plan. Now, the important thing here to consider is if you're offering cash flow for your clients, you have a product or service, it's actually a productized service that you can offer at scale, and it's highest and best use of your time. So this is where you want to use outsourcing or something to free up your staff's time. But if you have this presentation down pat, if you're comfortable doing it, and once you see the value of it and how people value it, then the next step is to get partners to help you promote it. So I created this little wheel, and this is my wheel. I'll show you an exercise to create your own. There's no rhyme or reason to the categories other than they're important to my business. So I'll explain this in a second. And the reason there's 12 categories is the picture had 12 spokes. Don't be that literal. You can add as many as you think you need. But basically, what we're looking at is if we're the center of the wheel, if we're the hub, those spokes lead us and connect us to our ideal clients who are the rim of the wheel. And basically, I created this using an old wagon wheel because this is old-fashioned networking back in the day when we built relationships and we added value first before we started asking. I think that's the mistake most people make today. We've lost sight of the good manners of giving value and then asking. So the point of the wheel is we can waste a lot of time and energy on marketing and sales. And, the better we get at marketing, if we learn how to use paid ads and click ads and things like that, we have to get better at sales too, because we're taking really cold traffic and trying to convert. World-class salespeople are ecstatic if they can convert 20% of cold traffic into paying clients. Accountants are not world-class, no offense, at sales. So at best, you're hoping to get 20% conversion. Flipping it around, if you get word-of-mouth referrals, the world's worst salespeople on average close 80 to 90 to 100% of a warm referral or an introduction. So my question to you is, do you want to get better at marketing and sales, or do you want to make money and be good at delivery? So the assumption I have for you is that you want to make money and be good at delivering a great product or service. So we are at the hub here, and we're going to identify who our ideal client is. The solution is we're going to help them with cash flow. And what we want to do is figure out the other businesses or other groups that do business with our ideal client. So think about your existing clients. What type of businesses do they also work with? And the idea is we want to build mutually beneficial, high quality relationships. It's quality, not quantity, with strategic partners that if we host a lunch and learn session or a Zoom session, they'll invite their clients as well. And as a bonus, you could have a monthly speaker series where, there's 12 months in the year, there's 12 spokes here. Each of you could take a turn presenting something of interest to a business segment, for example. And so basically, we're going to look at which categories are most relevant to your business. So for CPAs, I find that other CPAs can be a great source. If you're in an industry niche and somebody isn't, they might refer to you. Bookkeepers also I throw in that category because a good bookkeeper will bring you lots. And my next one is corporate attorneys. All of these people do business with my ideal clients. Therefore, I want to get to know them. And so basically, business bankers, definitely, they have clients, they have a vested interest in cash flow as a conversation. Commercial insurance brokers, again, they serve my audience. Business brokers help businesses buy and sell. They're a natural conversation to have about cash flow. Other is just generally anybody else that you can think of. Groups, I'm a big fan of industry specialization because industries tend to have associations, trade associations, professional bodies. They can be great partners to promote a cash flow conversation. Never ignore your existing clients. They can be a great source of referral. As I talked about, you can host these events and say, bring a friend. And also, if you don't know how to reach these other people, you can host an event and have them bring their advisor. Next one for me is payroll companies. Anybody does payroll as a living, they have a large list of clients. So you want to build relationships with payroll companies and also software companies. Who provides the technology that your ideal client uses in their business? I like to work with accountants, so I do a lot with the software companies like Intuit and Xero. And then business coaches. I love business coaches because they'll tell their clients they need key performance indicators. They'll tell them they need a budget. They will make sure the client does these things, but they're a good partner because they need you to support them in the back end. And then lastly, commercial real estate agents. They're usually the first to know who's growing, who's contracting, who's buying a building, who's selling, who's leasing, who's leasing bigger space, leasing smaller. So commercial real estate agents, their very survival depends on keeping in touch with their clients. They make really good partners. So the exercise here is you want to sit down and write down who do you already know, like, and trust in each category that could be a key strategic partner. And the first step is to identify who your key strategic partners are. And we have a second handout. So basically, my goal is you're going to have 12 categories at most, and you want at least 3 people in each category. Now, this is about quality, not quantity. So these are people, and I'll tell you what outreach looks like in a second, but these are people that you know, like, and trust, and you want to build a mutually beneficial relationship with where you're going to trade introductions back and forth. And so your goal, we talked about the wheel. If you have missing spokes, you're going to have a bumpy ride. If you have all the spokes, it's going to be a smooth ride. That's a metaphor for your business, because if you have a good network, you'll get all the leads you want, and these will be warm introductions that will be very likely to convert. And fun fact, if you meet your leads through a cash flow presentation, they're going to want to talk to you about cash flow. And when they introduce their friends to you, they're going to introduce them in the context of cash flow. So that's the big thing, is we want to build those relationships that will help us get in front of as many business owners as possible, because cash flow is going to be the conversation. And then once we bring them in, once we talk about cash flow, then we can sell them on our other services. And again, the reason I picked cash flow is you cannot possibly do a good job with cash flow if the books and records aren't up to date. So it's the carrot that incentivizes your clients to be current. Literally, I've seen clients begging, saying, hey, when can I bring my stuff in so we can get this month's budget prepared? So cash flow is meant to get them really excited about keeping their books and records up to date. The other thing is, if you start talking about cash flow, it's the gateway, and it allows you to identify other needs. So cash flow is the single fastest way to build a practice with really good clients. And again, the goal is not to get as many clients as possible. It's to get as many great clients as possible. So you want great clients. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to have these category of 12, and you're going to fill in the names of people that you already know. And what you're going to do is reach out, and if you have gaps, consciously try to fill them. So the first step is to reach out and say, dear so-and-so, I'm hosting a webinar on cash flow. Here's some of the details. Would love it if you could attend. Let them attend first. And then the next outreach is, did you have any feedback? Would you be interested in sharing this with your audience? Or do you have any content you'd like to share with mine? So have a conversation about how it's mutually beneficial. Now, the other thing is if you've got big gaps in your categories or your contacts, reach out to your existing network and say, hey, I'm looking for a really great commercial realtor. Do you know any that you would recommend? And the key is you want to say, I'm looking for somebody who's really great. Is there anybody you could introduce me to? So you don't want just an introduction. You want an introduction to a great person. So that's the key. And basically your goal is to do the cash flow presentation monthly, at least. Obviously more if you're getting great results from it. But you want all of your clients to go through it. You want them to bring a friend. And then you want to get your key strategic partners to start inviting people as well. So just to recap, we walked you through, and the templates will be in the portal. So we walked you through how to set up the collateral for your basic cash flow management service. And we walked you through how to set it up internally. And last but not least, how to get your key strategic partners to promote it. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions or comments, we'll be doing more of these as a series. And we also have a more advanced program if you'd like to learn how to implement at a higher level and have a little bit of help doing it. We can share some details on that down below. But thank you very much, and good luck talking to your clients about cash flow. It is, I promise, the most fun conversations you'll have, and it adds the most possible value. Thank you for joining me for how to deliver a high-value cash flow management service. At this point, you have three choices. One, stick with the status quo, do nothing. That's perfectly fine. Two, you can take the things I've taught you and implement yourself. I really hope that if you're a go-getter and a self-starter, you've already implemented and you're excited to get going. Or option three, if you're not sure where to go next, or maybe you're ready to go, but you want a little bit more help, option three is to work with us. And what we offer is a complete done-for-you cash flow service system that's plugged into your practice, and a complete done-for-you marketing system to sign up new clients to your new cash flow service, all with ongoing support and done-for-you services, unless you want to take that over on your own, and we'll guarantee new high-margin clients or your money back. If you're interested in working with us, we'd love to have a chat with you. There's no obligation. Click the link below, and let's schedule a time to chat.